You know, the jokes that the old Jewish men tell in towels at the health club locker room. In fact, I want to dedicate this part of my presentation to the memory of a dear friend and a wonderful Jewish joke teller, Ben Gervitz. Benny left this earth this past summer at the age of 99 3/4. But he went out doing exactly what he loved, making people laugh with his many, many jokes. One of the most common themes in Jewish humor is business. And if you only knew about the Jewish man's business ethics from jokes, it wouldn't be a positive perspective. 3 old Jewish men were sitting around the pool at the retirement village, exchanging stories. They were all discussing the miraculous turn of events that earned them such a beautiful retirement. Morris says, "I had a nice dry goods store on the Lower East Side. I did okay. Then one day, I came in to find a huge fire had wiped the whole place out. But don't worry, a big insurance settlement, and I did very well. And here I am." Barry says, "I had a department store in the city. Did okay. I came in one day to find that it was totally flooded. Every item ruined. The place was destroyed. But not to worry, I settled very nicely, made a fortune, and here I am." Harry says, "I had a grocery store in New Jersey, a great neighborhood. I did very well. Then a terrible thing happened, a hurricane. I was totally wiped out, but in the end, I made out very well with the insurance company, so here I am." Barry and Morris stare at Harry incredulously, and they ask, "How do you make a hurricane?" A similar one. Levine meets his friend Schwartz. He says, "I heard your factory burned down." "Shh," Schwartz answers, looking around anxiously. Next week. Notice a theme? How about this one? One of my favorites. A Jewish man calls the rabbi of the town, and he asks for help. "Everything I owned, Rabbi, everything I owned was lost when my house burned down in a terrible fire. I've been left with nothing." "Do you have a letter from the rabbi of your town attesting to this fire?" the rabbi asks. "I had such a letter, but that too was lost in the fire." I'll give you a second. Or how about Jewish materialism? Jewish materialism. There's the one about the Jewish woman who told her rabbi she wanted to be cremated. The rabbi tells her that it's against Jewish law, but she insists. And she has a second request too. "What is it?" asked the rabbi. "I want my ashes to be scattered over Bloomingdale's." "Why in God's name would you want to do that?" the rabbi shouts. "That way I'm sure my daughters will visit me at least twice a week." Or how about the one where the sexy young woman walks into a dinner party on the arm of a much, much older man. At the dinner, the lady sitting next to her remarks, "That is an absolutely beautiful, exquisite diamond ring. I don't think I've ever seen a diamond ring that beautiful." "Thank you," the woman says. "This is a famous diamond. It's called the Plotnik diamond, and it comes with a curse." "A curse? What's the curse?" the woman asks. "Mr. Plotnik." There are a lot of Jewish jokes that revolve around Jewish mothers. But in deference to my own mother and mother-in-law and grandmother-in-law, who are all in this room right now, I will tread quite lightly on this topic. But here are a few of my favorites. A Jewish mother is having a very tense relationship with her 14-year-old son. Screaming and fighting, they never get along. And against his own will, she takes him to see a psychiatrist for psychoanalysis. After two sessions, the doctor calls the mother into his office. "Your son," he tells her, "has an Oedipus complex." "Oedipus schmedipus," the woman answers, "as long as he loves his mother." Or what about the birth announcement I saw recently in the Detroit Jewish News? Maybe you saw this one. In the paper it says, Mr. and Mrs. Marvin Rosenblum are pleased to announce the birth of their son, Dr. Jonathan Rosenblum. Here's one you can tell your kids or your grandkids, or your great-grandkids. A mother goes into her son's room. You've got to get up for school, Bernie. Bernie pulls the blanket over his head. I don't want to go to school. You have to, his mother says. I don't want to. The teachers don't like me, and the kids all make fun of me. The mother pulls the blanket down. Bernie, you don't have any choice. You have to go to school. Yeah, Bernie says. Give me one good reason. You're 52 years old and you're the principal. Who doesn't love a good brisk joke? I'm sure I love brisk humor. I'm sure brisk jokes come from a place of discomfort around the subject. Here's one of my favorites. David's watch was not working. He remembered passing a little shop with clocks and watches in the window, so he took the watch in for repair. Can I help you? Asked the man behind the counter. Yeah, I'd like to have my watch repaired, David said. I'm sorry, said the man. We don't repair watches. All right, David said. Well, how about a new watch? I don't sell watches either. You don't sell watches? No, I don't sell watches. Clocks. You sell clocks then. How much for a clock? I don't sell clocks. David was getting exasperated. Why do you have watches and clocks on all the walls? He said, well, if you were a Moyle, tell me, what would you put on your walls? My grandfather told me that. Two gentlemen are using the facilities at Grand Central Station in New York. One gentleman says to the other, tell me, guy, are you from Borough Park? The other gentleman exclaims, yeah, how did you know that? First gentleman says, do you belong to Temple Bethel? Second gentleman says, yeah, how did you know that? First gentleman says, is Rabbi Rabinowitz, the Moyle, is he still there? Second gentleman exclaims, yeah, how did you know that? First guy says, because he always cuts on a slant and you've been peeing on my shoe. Another common theme around Jewish humor is the different denominations. Whenever I teach classes about modern Judaism and the different denominations, I always try to teach about the differences between the Orthodox, Conservative, and Reform movements of Judaism. And I try to stereotype each movement with an exaggeration. So I refer to the big three as crazy, hazy, and lazy. Give me a second. Everyone's offended with that one. A woman goes to the post office to buy stamps for her Hanukkah cards. She says to the clerk, may I have 50 Hanukkah stamps, please? What denomination, says the clerk. You know the punchline. The woman says, oy vey, my God, has it really come to this? Okay, give me 6 Orthodox, 12 Conservative, and 32 Reform. Sometimes Jewish humor comes out of confusion. Confusion between the different religions, the different ethnic groups. For several years, I've been teaching a college course about Judaism, and most of my students are not Jewish. And so I ask them, when we get to the topic of Jewish holidays, I always ask the students, I say, tell me, have you heard of any Jewish holidays? And inevitably they all say Hanukkah, right? So once I asked what the students knew about Hanukkah, and I got all of the typical responses, latkes, menorahs, candles, presents, dreidels, etc. But one student said something that confused me. When I asked, what do you know about Hanukkah? He said, that's the holiday where the Jews line their driveways with wooden stakes. And I said, what? What are you talking about? Wooden stakes around the driveway? And he wasn't being naive or anything. He just realized that all the Jewish homes have hired snowplows in the wintertime. I think he was trying to figure out how he light each stake. There's only 8 steaks around the table. But it goes both ways. Right? It goes both ways. It's not just non-Jews thinking about that with Jewish people. I was driving around the neighborhood with one of my kids in the car, and it was right around Christmas time. And we drive past this house with an elaborate manger scene. And my son looks out the window, and he says to me, he asks, he sees the little wooden hut with all of the people inside, the manger scene, and innocently he says to me, "Why do those people still have their sukkah up? It's December."